Hey, thank you so much for tuning in to Instrumental Intel. I am your host, music producer, Chick with Beats, and I'm glad that you're here with me. Today kicks off National Hip Hop History Month, and in honor of that, I'm going to be highlighting conversations that I've had regarding hip hop history with Danger Mental and Ultramag 7. So I'm excited to be bringing this episode to you. And before we go ahead and get started, I gotta give a shout out to my home station, Grander Radio out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. And I'm gonna take a quick pause for the cause and then be back right after this. Keep it locked. Hey, I'm a Chick with Beats, multi-genre music producer and strategist to indie artists and labels. Visit achickwithbeats.com for resources for artists and instrumentals in various genres available for songs, vlogs, blogs, podcasts, themes, TV, film, commercials, and more. Once again, that's achickwithbeats.com. That's ACHICKWITBEATZ.com. Let's make something happen. All right, thank you so much for tuning in to Instrumental Intel. I am your host, music producer, Chick with Beats, and I am so excited to announce that I have in the virtual building with me, music producer, just all around artist and creative, Danger Mental. And so, real quick, you've been on Music Marvels before, but now for this audience, if you could just kind of give an introduction, like who is Danger Mental and how you got kind of pulled into music, if you will.
I've been known as Danger Mental for the past 20 plus years. I started off as MC Joe BD, and that was something that, that's from the 80s. Every rap artist had an MC at their name, their name or with an initial at at the end. But I pretty much just started off as just helping with DJs that were in the local area, and I started to get more into hip hop around the age of 11, 12, and got more serious with writing as I got older. As far as production, I started doing production at the age of 14, doing the pause beat tapes, where you would take a cassette deck. If you had a double cassette deck and you just continuously loop the same part over and over. So I did a lot of that, in which I still have a lot of those cassettes to this very day.
Wow.
Yeah. So I started doing that, and then I started linking up with a few people around the area. This guy by the name of Juan Dominguez and Harold Jordan, who were known as the Hustlers back in the day, and who they connected me with a couple of members from the R&B group Basic Black, KB Kelvin Bradshaw is one of my mentors. Around the time they got out of their deal with Motown. So I've been doing beats for years and became more serious as a writer around 95, 96.
Okay. That was an interesting era for music. Who would you say were some of your influences around that time?
Oh man, around 90, I say around 94, 95. Even though at the time I wasn't a big fan as I am now, Nas is one of my influences. Lyrically, people like Large Professor, Pete Rock, like, let's see who else at the time. RZA was a big influence because I love the abstract sound. And as far as R&B or pop music, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Those are like Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis to me musically is up there at the top. Even though they're not hip hop producers, they're at the top of production in general. Yeah, because they dabbed into every type of sound. They put everything into their music. So they're at the top for me.
Yeah, it's funny because even though you say like they're not hip hop per se, but like a lot of that energy was still there, like even in the R&B and pop tracks somehow. Like, right. Yeah.
Especially with a lot of the Janet Jackson albums around 89 and going forward. You go back and you listen to Rhythm Nation. Yes. It's like they were like the R&B version of the Bomb Squad, which is another favorite production team of mine. Okay. Of course, Dre, DJ Premier. I mean, you can't leave them out.
Right. Yeah. So, okay, when you had said that some of your inspirations, like you're even more of a fan now than you were back then, I was just having this conversation recently, matter of fact, on this particular podcast about how when I was younger, it was a lot of good hip hop and stuff while I was coming up. And while I would listen to it and enjoy it, you can only understand so much at certain ages. So it's almost like once you kind of experience life a little bit more and then go back to reflect on it, it's almost like that music kind of hits a little bit harder because you're recognizing some of the stuff that they did that maybe, I guess being in the moment or too young to understand how impactful it was. It's almost like it's more fun to revisit it now, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I go back and being that I collect a lot of vinyl albums, I go back and I listen to the old joints that I never got a chance to experience when I was a kid. And a lot of it, I was always on punishment. Yeah. And so I didn't get a chance to listen to a lot of those albums. So I go back and I visit those albums, and the albums that I did have, I go back and revisit to absorb them a little bit more, because like I said, you understand things more as you get older. And then there are some albums I have in my collection and I'm like, what was I thinking? Why did I think this was dope? But I take it all in because I was just talking to somebody recently and they were talking about how good hip hop was back in the day. Yeah, that's true. But we also had some whack joints too.
Yes.
And we had our guilty pleasures back then. Mm-hmm. So I look back and I was big on Two Live Crew back in the day. So I wouldn't bump half of what I used to listen to back then, but I still have those albums because that's a part of my, my coming up age,
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, let me say I was way too young to be listening to those, but I didn't even realize how much I knew until, we had the Sirius XM subscription and Rock the Bells. One particular show they did where it was just pretty much like a homage, and I'm like, man, I know this one. I'm rapping along to the words. I'm like, I know this one too. I'm like, man, I was way too young to be listening to this, but I'm not gonna lie, some of that stuff still goes hard. when I was watching the Freaknik documentary and Scarred came on, I about lost my mind. So yeah, I mean, granted, guilty pleasures, but some of that stuff still hit. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah, man. And rest in peace to Brother Marquise from Tulare.
Yes, yes.
He and I became Facebook friends about
wow.
a year or so. And I didn't know he was living here in Alabama.
Oh, wow.
I was talking to Prince Raheem, and he was telling me about that. And I was like, wow.
Incredible.
That was definitely rest in peace there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, okay, you named all your influences like through the 90s. And I mean, since you've been doing this for a while, what would you say, or let me try to find a way to word this where it's not so loaded. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen happening in the industry from the time you started until present day?
The access to new music and the rapid pace of the releases now. Back when I was a kid, you know, you waited for a new album to drop on a Tuesday, and
yes,
there were ads that were posted on in several magazines and some billboards, and the anticipation of waiting to get that album was just like, oh, I can't wait till this album drops. Now it's like you see an album dropping, like, wait a minute, when was this supposed to come out? You know, and it's no, well, I put it like this. Some artists, it's a shock. Like, oh man, I didn't know this dropped. I gotta go cop that. And then there's some albums that drop as a surprise. And like, okay, crickets for me, you know.
Yeah.
So, but it's a double-edged sword to me, because I feel with the ease of access, you know, you have many artists that are out there. They're able to put their music out whenever they feel like it. They don't have to wait on a middleman. They don't have to wait on a label to tell them to put it out.
Right.
So that's a good thing. I took advantage of that as well, and I love DistroKid. Won't speak on Spotify too quick, because that's pretty much has been like a nail in the coffin for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Due to the streaming sales, like you're making all these streams and you're only getting 0.03 cents per stream.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's very unfair. So the shady part of the music industry is always going to be there, no matter what. So, but it's going to have to take the artist and the consumer to change that. If they don't unite on that and change it, it's always going to be the way that it is, the evil empire of the industry.
Yeah.
But I really loved, like when Little Brother came out with their last album and it dropped on that was like, wow, we haven't seen that in years. Yeah. Because everything either drops Friday or it drops at midnight at a certain date.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, it builds up a little of anticipation, but it's not as how can I say that? It's not as exciting as it was when we were younger.
Yeah, I agree. And when you said that, that made me think of a tweet that Fonte had done like some years back, that's saying like, you know, Tuesday you need the music to get you through the week. And, you know, by Friday, you're already done. So it was like people haven't had enough time to sit with it, DJs and whatnot. So, yeah, I totally agree with that. And speaking of artists that, you know, can do what they want, just drop stuff, I noticed that. So I do a lot of combing through Google alerts, all that stuff to find out what's happening in the music business. And I recently came across just a flurry of articles, one after the other. Titles were slightly different, but all of it was, where's Beyonce? She dropped Cowboy Carter and we haven't seen or heard from her. And it's like, well, yeah. I mean, she just got done touring. She dropped an album what more do you want? Now people are actually expecting, like, you to just kind of come back to back to back. And like you said, we used to have to sit with stuff, and especially as a kid buying music. Right. You spend your little check, your whole check almost go to whatever CD or tape you might have purchased. If you don't like some songs on the track, on the album, you're going to sit with it for a while because you're going to spend your money and you listen to it more. Where nowadays, you don't have that. But just the entitlement to artists is just wild these days.
It's so crazy. And it made me think of this dude that was on my friend list on Facebook. Won't call his name, but he hit me up, and his thing is he likes to archive material from an artist that's like recorded earlier on. And there's a lot of my material I will never put out because 1, it wasn't good, 2, the quality was garbage, and 3, in my opinion, and maybe in many other people's opinion, it was whack. So if I don't like it, I'm not putting it out, So he would hit me up and he would constantly say, well, I want you to send me some of your old stuff. I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm not going to put it out for myself. Why would I give it to you? Right. And then you get mad, and then you use that as some form of leverage. No, I'm not going to do that. It got so weird that it was this picture I put up. It was me and my mom. One of my cousins sent it to me, and I hadn't seen this picture since I was like 15 years old. And at the time, my name was D-Lyrical. And I changed it because I found out there was a rapper from, I think from Miami. His name was D-Lyrical, spelled the same way, so I changed it to Danger Mental. But I had a cap on that had D-Lyrical across it. And all I did was just post this picture, and it's like back in my D-Lyrical days. And dude was like, man, you need to put all that stuff out. And I went to your web page, and I'm disappointed you didn't update anything. I'm like, who are you? And why do you feel like it's important that I give you my old vintage material?
Right.
Who are you?
It's entitled to your art. Yeah.
Oh my God. And we ended up hitting Tifa from Infamous Syndicate. He hit her up as well. And she and I had a discussion about it. I'm like, who is this weirdo, yo? So I'm like, I'm about to block this dude right now. It was that crazy. I'm like, if I'm not going to put out this whack stuff, why am I, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that is wild. And it's always kind of hard the first time encountering people like that, because it's like, oh, cool, a fan. But then they go a little bit too far, and it's like, all right, maybe too much of a fan. But we might need to put some distance here. But.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like one person that asked me about my bass music, he realized I really wasn't putting out as much hip hop, and I told him I'm kind of like shifting back and forth. But when I feel like I need to put out hip hop, I will. Right now, I'm just doing the electronica. And he was like, "Well, I guess bass music wins." Not necessarily. I love those genres, but I'm an artist that does what he wants to do. I'm not signed to anyone's label. So I do what I feel, and I put it out because that's what I feel like doing. Right. If you catch on, that's fine. If you don't catch on, that's fine as well, because there's going to be someone that's going to like it. There's going to be someone that's going to hate it. Either way, it's out there,
right,
for you. But it was just crazy. And he was like telling me, "Well, I think you may need to do this and do that to the next album." I was like, you know what? I took that advice one time, and I paid a very big price for following that advice. And someone who never supported the album in the first place.
Wow.
So here I had an album sitting out there, and it's collecting dust because I decided to take the advice from someone who never supported it in the first place.
Wow, man, that is well, first of all, thank you for sharing that. because I think everybody in music at some point has probably had some story similar to that, to where they kind of feel bad. But yeah, the cautionary tale is real. You had mentioned about, like, you're being an artist and you're doing, what you're feeling drawn to do. So with that being said, what have you been drawn to lately? If you could tell us a little bit about what you may have been maybe working on or have in the works or coming up.
I'm working on an album, which I've been doing this one for about 4 years. I've been dealing with a lot of personal things, so that's been kind of like the roadblock that I've been facing. Plus, I have been trying to get back into photography a little bit more too. But the name of the album was originally called the Common Ground Experiment, which I changed it because a lot of the songs I recorded or had written were like very somber, very sad. They dealt with a lot of the subjects, like on grief, relationships, pain, pain, a lot of the sad things. And I'm like, I don't like this. And I decided to change it. I kept some of the songs and I scrapped a lot of others. I would recycle the verses from certain songs into new versions. So the album that I have now is entitled "It's Not Me, It's You," or maybe it is me. Originally, it was just I first had it as "It's Not Me, It's You," and when I did the photography for it, really, I didn't even plan this album. It was basically me looking at the photos I had taken. They were like self portraits and all, and I liked what I had done with the photos. And the front cover is me just sitting on the floor with a boombox, listening to some cassette tapes, and just like I'm minding my own business. And then the back cover is me in the same room, but this time it's like I'm screaming out. So that's where the other part, or maybe it is me part, comes in. So it's not me, it's you, or maybe it is me. So it's a very personal album, and it's going to deal with a lot of personal situations I have experienced, and like I said, mental health. Being that we're in Men's Mental Health Month, and I didn't want to focus so much just on like hip hop, the topic of hip hop, even though there are some songs on there like Real Hip Hop Part 2, Don't Let This Rap Ish Fool You, what's another one? Popularity Contest. That's another one I wanted to talk about, because with Popularity Contest, it's like you're looking at how people spend more time worrying about two rappers beefing, with each other and all that, but you got all this other great music, just like with the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef. And people focused on that so much that there were people actually saying hip hop is dead because of this. No, it's not.
Man, yeah.
Like, y'all focus into two people when there's millions of rap albums out there that are great.
Yes.
I'm feeling this new Rhapsody album. I'm like, y'all spent more time and energy on that. Y'all forgot this woman dropped a dope album. But I have songs like Monster Part 2, His Pain, or when I did Me and My Music back in 2018, I had the song called Monster, which was focused on physical and sexual abuse towards women, and what the pain that they go through dealing with this in their lives. So when I did Part 2, I wanted to focus on the pain that men go through, that many of us are afraid to even express, because society has it where we're supposed to be strong, macho. We're supposed to just have this rough around the edge mentality at all times.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't realize the strongest men in the world are the ones that got to show their emotions, the ones that got to bring it out into the open. That's a strong man. He expressed what he feels in his heart. That man cries and get it out of his system. That's a strong man. But being the way society is, it's hard to express that. But I never shied away from the topic. I express it no matter what. I don't care what people think. So I'm gonna talk about that.
Yeah, that's what's up, and it's definitely needed. So for anybody that might be out there listening now, what kind of advice would you have to offer them if, they kind of have stories that they want to share, but they're afraid to just kind of be vulnerable and pour it into their art?
I can't say I'm the best advisor, but I will say this. Find your happy space. Find the things that make you happy and put your all into those things. Don't use it as a mask. Use this as your platform, your palette to create and vent. A lot of times I will write stuff that you'll see posted on Facebook, and it's not even for a song. It's just I write in rhymes in most cases, and that's how I get out wherever I'm feeling. And you might see it be random, no title to it, and that's just how I get out. A lot of times I don't talk to anybody because I hate for if what I'm going through to pull them down. They may be going through a good day. I don't want to pull their energy down, or they may be having a bad day, and I don't want to make them feel worse. So what I do, I pour it all into my music. And if anybody wants to know what's going on with me, that's their resource right there. Okay. And that's just the way I do it. I'm sure there are other alternatives, but that's just how I get it out.
Okay, so that's what's up.
I think just put your heart into the things that you love and express through there. If you paint, you draw, color, whatever. Put it through that. You write, put it through that. And it's just like going to the altar and leave it there. And that's how I deal with it.
Yeah, I love that. That's excellent advice. I've had times where there's been some stuff that I've, recorded or performed or whatever the case may be, and somebody's said something to me later, like, "Hey, I was in that exact situation. It felt really good to hear this." And, in my mind, thinking when I'm making it, like, I'm probably the only person in the world that's ever had these thoughts. But so often you find that you're not. And just by having the courage to go ahead and do it, you never know who you could be helping.
Right. And you should never feel like that you're being weak by doing that. It's strengthened all of that. So when you put that out, when you express what you feel, you're showing the world your strength, even though they may look at it opposite. And to be honest, it don't matter what they think. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because this is what you have to live with, and this is how you get through it all.
Right, man. that's a sound bite right there. So yeah, notice that time is definitely staring us right down, smack dab in the face. But before we close out, I want to make sure that people know exactly where they can follow you, social media, platforms, whatever you use, so that way they can keep up with what you got going on.
Well, you can find me on Facebook, of course. You can find me under Danger Mental, or you can find me under Bad Joby. That's my alternate page. I'm on there every now and then, posting up content that I usually won't post on my main page. I'm on every streaming site right now, and I'm on Bandcamp as well. So if you want to get the downloads directly from there, you can get it. You can get it as Danger Mental or as Squad Control Station. if you're into the electronica music. So yeah, there are some other, and I'm also on YouTube and YouTube Music. So I'm also working with a few other people to expand what I'm doing. Hopefully, I'll get back into selling merchandise again. I had a little dry run, but hopefully, I'll be back on it.
Okay, all right. Well, that's what's up. Make sure that you check him out everywhere that he mentioned. And before we close out, I just want to know if there's any, kind of final thoughts you want to leave with the audience or any special shout outs. You can do that at this time.
I'll take a quote from Jazzy Jeff joint. Love what you do and do what you love. I think listening to that song, The Love of the Game, it has the greatest advice ever. Love what you do and do what you love.
Right. That's what's up. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Right. Well, I appreciate you bringing me aboard, and it's always a pleasure, chopping it up with you.
Yes, likewise. And I hope that we can do this again sometime soon. That this is just part one.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your time, story, and wisdom with us. Appreciate you.
No doubt. Peace.
Hey, I'm a chick with beats, multi-genre music producer and strategist to indie artists and labels. Visit achickwithbeats.com for resources for artists and instrumentals in various genres available for songs, vlogs, blogs, podcasts, themes, TV, film, commercials, and more. Once again, that's achickwithbeats.com. That's ACHICKWITBEATZ.com. Let's make something happen. Thank you so much for tuning in to Instrumental Intel. I am your host, music producer, Chick with Beats, and I'm very, very excited to say that I have in the virtual building with me today, Ultramag 7. I mean, we've been connected on Instagram for a while, but it's really great to be able to have this conversation semi face-to-face. But if you could, maybe just tell the people a little bit about, who is Ultramag 7 and how you got into doing what you do.
Ultramag 7, I guess I would be a Instagram content creator, and what I do, I like to call culture clips. So I like to take songs that have hip hop culture in them, and I like to take clips of pop culture. So culture clips. So movies, cartoons, commercials, anything nostalgic, something from yesteryear. Try to put it together to see if it makes sense. I mean, I guess a lot of times it makes sense to me. I don't know if it makes sense to anybody else. But, I guess what some people would call mashup, but I like to make it my own, so I like to call it culture clips. I got started during the lockdowns when the pandemic happened, and it's two things. It was boredom and jealousy. So boredom, being locked down, and there's this 24-hour cycle, and I'm not gonna sit around and watch TV. I don't want to read this book that I read 72 times again. And so creative juices started flowing, and then I would go on Instagram, and my page was kind of curated for hip hop. I liked a lot of hip hop pages, and I would see all these people coming out with cassettes and records and tapes and t-shirts, and that's where the jealousy comes in, because I'm like, I got some of that stuff. So how do I guess what I envisioned was this online hip hop space, and I was jealous and I wanted to be a part of it. And how do I do that in my own unique way? And as I said, I had, a lot of these, tapes, cassettes, but I didn't want to do that. I come from the age of not biting. So I was like, I don't want to do what you do.
Right.
And so when I first started, I took two songs that had maybe like a bridge, like something that connected them, but they both had videos, and I would cut the video right in the middle of one and then it would sink into the other. So it seemed like seamless. And then I soon realized a lot of these songs that I wanted to do didn't have videos, and I was going to run out of material. So I recall a friend saying to me, you know, hip hop has a lot of pop culture and references, and when I heard that, I said, well, let me make my own videos. So that's where me doing my own thing, grabbing, you know, material from all these places started.
Okay. I mean, that's a really dope way to get started. I think I kind of want to talk a little bit about something you just said there. It came from boredom and jealousy, but so many people have those emotions and they do nothing with it. But the fact that you're like, okay, no, I'm going to get in this space. How do I fit? Instead of, like you said, biting, because, you know, we see a lot of that these days. And I missed that yesteryear era where, you know, that was frowned upon. But I just want to commend you for that, because, like I said, a lot of people just sit in those feelings and don't actually get active about it. So, one, thank you for getting active about it, because what you do is so entertaining. And I think for me, as a hip hop enthusiast and also as a producer, it feels like the same thing that we do with sampling. So like you take pieces here and there to create something totally new. So I love, you know, anytime I'm just kind of mindlessly scrolling, and then when you come across it, I'm like, man, I would never make that connection. Like it just makes so much sense when I see it, but it never would have occurred to me. And so, yeah, how do you kind of get in the zone for that? Because I mean, it's masterful. Like it's artful.
Yeah, it's weird, and like, actually, all right, I'll walk you through one I just did. I think I just did recently. So it was the Beastie Boys song. It's called Professor Booty, and I think I saw on Instagram or somewhere on social media, there was this old cartoon, Sherman and Professor Peabody.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I haven't seen it for a while. I'm like, oh, okay. But I remembered that, you know, the dog is the professor, you know, it's a cartoon. And Sherman's this little boy. And so I saw that and I'm like, oh, that's Professor Peabody. So in my mind goes, Professor. I'm like, oh, Professor Booty. Then I'm like, wait, can I make a video out of this? So I went and grabbed like just one of the cartoons. I looked at a few, but just grabbed something. And as I'm doing it, I always listen to the lyrics. So I try to make the lyrics take me somewhere. So I started doing it, lip syncing it up. And then there's a part where they go, looking good, like that. And that's from, rest in peace, Freddie Prinze. You know, I think he died in the late 70s. And people may know his son, Freddie Prinze Jr. But he had a show, Chico and the Man, and that was his catchphrase. So then there's a part in the cartoon where the professor has a book and he opens it up. So I was like, you know, let me superimpose, something of Freddie Prinze saying looking good. And then there was a part at the song, what did they say? Don't touch me because I'm electric, and if you touch me, you'll get shocked. And it just so happened in the same cartoon that I think, who was it? This is horrible because I'm near Philadelphia. Benjamin Franklin. Sorry, Benjamin Franklin. Sorry, my Philadelphia people.
Yeah.
But Benjamin Franklin is sitting there, and obviously, with the key and the lightning, so he gets shocked. So it just happened to fall into place, and I could use all of these pieces. So the inspiration comes from something as simple as that. Like, it's just something I'm not even thinking about. But I guess because I've listened to hip hop so long, and I know a lot of different songs, that'll just make me think of titles and, oh, this will work for this. Or, like I'll watch a movie and see a sequence and say, hey, that kind of sounds like this song. Or I hear a song and be like, vice versa. And then I'll be like, oh, that could be, moved into this. So there's loads of different inspiration, and it's not the same every time, basically.
Okay. So yeah, you can get inspiration from one or the other at any given moment. Wow.
Absolutely.
That's really cool. So, okay. Now, I've noticed that it's typically a lot of old school hip hop. Are there any greats that kind of drew you to the culture, like to begin with, that you can think of offhand, I should say? I know there's many.
Yeah, well, number one, the name is Ultramag 7, so my favorite hip hop group is Ultramagnetic. So my name comes from that group name, and then my favorite number 7. So when you get on Instagram, you got to come up with a tag, and that was just something I put together. If I had to go back, I guess when I started or knew that this thing might take off, I wouldn't have chosen that name. But I'm stuck with it is what it is. But I don't know, Ultramagnetic. I'm a little bit older, so I like Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, Cold Crush, Crash Crew. There's so many Beastie Boys, obviously, with that song. Yeah, there's so many groups. Like I could go on for days.
Okay, so with some of those pioneers as your favorites that you mentioned, from that time frame to now, how do you think technology, well, I should say specifically the internet, has kind of changed things as far as music goes?
Well, I talk about this with friends. I think the internet, especially now, if you see what's going on, I know you always talk about what's going on in the industry, and I love hearing that, is right now I think the internet and everything is taking away the middleman. And people don't really need labels anymore. It used to be, you make a record, it might not come out for another year. You can make a record in your bedroom, and then 10 minutes from now you upload it, and if you have the following or people, they'll hear your new song. So I think it's really taking out the middleman. I think there's a lot of independent artists now that have a greater voice because they don't have to get behind that machine anymore. Yeah. So yeah,
absolutely. You mentioned how a lot of the stuff that you work with is out of the nostalgia. So what would you say would be like maybe the greatest thing out of that era? Where the golden era, when everything started taking off from 70s to like mid 90s. What do you think kind of defined that era?
I think the diversity. There were so many different groups and style, so we had female MCs, a plethora, and they didn't have to take off their clothes and shake their booty. You got, Salt and Pepper, who were super sexy, but didn't have to show their body. You have Ultramagnetic or on some scientific outer space stuff. Public Enemy, Pro-Black, KRS-One, he's teaching, he's the teacher. So he's explaining all these things that we didn't dive into or didn't even know about. So I guess it's really the diversity. And I think on the top level of hip hop that you hear on radio or what people might call hip hop, I feel we don't have that. Like, let's say going back to biting. Now it's, you did that, I'm going to do that too. I'm going to do that. Then there's 50 people doing that, and who's doing this? We don't need you to do that. Let Drake do that. You don't have to sing and rap. Let somebody else do that, and just do what you do. Be the best you can be.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with everything that you just said. I feel like that's part of the reason why we're seeing so many of the changes within the music industry. Like all these companies are letting so many top people go. They're dropping artists, and I think it's just because so many are just regurgitating the same thing over and over again. And it's rare now that I can actually listen to radio music and be able to tell who it is. Like there's a handful of artists where I can actually recognize their voice, but so many others sound the same. So like that individuality piece, I think, is kind of imploding from the inside right now, what we're seeing. Because I mean, these labels, I think we're about to go from the big three to probably like the big two. And it's gonna be
and pretty soon it'll be a big one.
Yeah, exactly. So again, with that originality, could you talk a little bit more about how you're able to, I guess, maybe put yourself into what you do? Because I've seen people do different things, like maybe where they're trying to do what you do and it's not quite there. So like, how do you make sure that you put yourself into everything that you do?
I I think something I like to do is in the little time that I'm allotted, to make the videos, I like to tell a story. So I'm going back to like school when you have, the intro, the middle, conclusion. I always go back to those days. So I try to make it have some type of an arc or tell some type of story. And then just for me, I'm African American. I try to find as many things with black people in it as I can. And a lot of it is if the character fits. But if the character fits and it could be a black character, or if it's a show that I grew up with, I'm going to do that. So that's one of the things I always like to have, show black people in a light, and also let people know that we've always, sometimes we think, oh, we're not on TV or this. A lot of the stuff I show them, like, we were here. It might not be as prominent as other people, but we've been here. So I always like to do that.
Yeah, that's powerful. So yeah, through everything that you've been doing, I noticed that, you've got some greats that appreciate you and shout you out frequently. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that feels to be recognized for what you do?
Man, listen. So let me just real quick. So shout out to my friends over at CDoc again. So that's a show that we're on every Tuesday, and we talk with hip hop greats. But it's overseen by Chuck D of Public Enemy. So when I got brought onto the show, I'm in the presence of Chuck D. And he knows who I am, and I'm like, this is crazy. I'm the kid that would, I remember being in high school and leaving 6 period lunch and going to the local record store and getting Fear of a Black Planet and coming back to school and showing it to everybody. Like, how did you get it? You're not. We didn't get out of school yet. But being able to talk to Chuck D and him giving me props, and I've gotten calls from like Fab Five Freddy wanted to do something. He's calling me up and we're talking on the phone, and Fab Five Freddy's explaining to me who he is. I'm like, sir, I know who you are. Like, I remember Change the Beat and Freddy, I know who you are. So it really, for me, being the hip hop fan that I am, it's amazing because these people are larger than life to me. So for them to give me these accolades, I'm like, really? So yeah, it feels great. It's I don't know. I just love it. And I love talking to all the artists. Like, when I get a chance to talk to artists, I love it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's got to feel incredible, especially to think that Fab Five Freddy is like, oh, yeah, this is, yeah. Do you know who I am? Just in case, I was on some major shows. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think that it's awesome that you're being acknowledged for what you do, because a lot of times, it's a labor of love. Sometimes you don't get the thanks that you necessarily deserve. So yeah, that's so awesome. So if you could, you mentioned the show that you do every Tuesday. You can talk a little bit about that and let people know like where they can find it and subscribe, whatever they need to do.
Okay. So the show is called It's CDoc Again. And so CDoc, he's the host of the show, and he produces for Public Enemy. He's a filmmaker. He makes beats. He raps. So it's his show, and it's him, myself, a friend Jennifer Jenny, who used to work at K-Day in LA. So this was like the first 24-hour hip hop station. So she worked there. Yeah, she worked there back in the day. So she has her, the LA OGs come on the show and yeah, we know Jennifer, that type of thing. And then Flatline. So he works the music division of what Chuck does. So he's actually on Instagram, he's Hip Hop Gods. So he does that when people have new songs. He plays all the freshest hip hop, the newest stuff. And we just get on every week. Every Tuesday we have a new guest, and we talk with a plethora of MCs, DJs, whatever is part of the hip hop culture. graffiti artists, dancers, whatever it is, we talk with them every week. So, and it's on Channel Zero on YouTube. So it's Public Enemy's channel. So you go to Channel Zero and you'll see the lineup, and you'll see it's C-Doc again. So
okay, yeah. Awesome. So yeah, y'all make sure that y'all check that out. I've caught some of the clips from Instagram, and yeah, it's funny. They say that our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter, but every time, like, one of your videos pops up in my feed, I always gotta slow down. Like, okay, let me see what's going on here. So yeah, it's really great to tap in.
Thank you, because you're feeding the algorithm. I thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. I'll definitely signal, yeah, you got to push this out to more people.
Yeah.
So, okay. You're a storyteller. Do you have like any favorite storytellers? Like, for instance, I'll just say Slick Rick's children's stories is the thing that kind of grabbed me into hip hop. So, like, do you have any top notch list of storytellers?
Well, you said it right there. Slick Rick is probably my top. Slick Rick is that guy. Like, everybody loves his one album, The Great Adventures of Slick Rick, but my favorite album is his second album. What's it called?
Is that the one with Behind Bars on it?
No, that's the third one. It's something about the king or something, or I don't know what. I forget what the title is. I got too many hip hop songs, but that album I really loved because he told, like, his stories were great. He tells a story from the vantage point of a cat, and he even going back to the first album, he's Kit from Knight Rider. But like, Slick Rick, I just think he is so great. I think there's a song on a later album. He was like, a slave in Pharaoh's times. Like, he just sets you in. Yeah, I love that stuff. He just sets you in that mode, but it's still like this b-boy thing. Like, all right, I'm back then, but but I'm going to use these slick words, but he sets you in that mode. So I'm with you. Slick Rick is he's my number one storyteller.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that's an art form that I wish kind of had more exposure in present day. We got a lot of the greats, legends, the veterans still doing it. But from some of the newer artists, I would love to be able to see more of that. I mean, a storytelling is just, it's nice to be able to listen to something and just be transported and kind of get what they're seeing from that viewpoint, like you said, the cat's view. But and
it's genius. I'm like, it's like, how do you think of that? And then the thing is, you can think of it, but you have to make it creative and slick, and for people to want to listen. Like, if you just told the average person, yeah, he's going to be a cat and he's going to run, and you're like, what? So yeah, I appreciate the storytelling.
Yeah, well, it's obvious in what you do that you are one for sure. So do you have, I know you say it just kind of comes to you, but do you have any like concrete plans that you might want to share that people can be looking out for from you? Like, kind of coming up?
It's just, I get hit up from some artists nowadays, and so they hit me up and want videos. So things like that happen. So there'll be videos coming up. And actually, I used to rap long time ago.
I knew it. I knew it.
But I had retired. But since, getting in cahoots with C-Doc, I guess at the top of the year, there'll be an album by Enemy Radio, which is an offshoot of Public Enemy. And I'll be doing a song with Chuck D. So people,
awesome.
You'll see Ultramax 7 trying to rhyme against Chuck D. Not rhyme against, rhyme with Chuck D. So that'll be coming. And I think, I don't know, I may come out of retirement if that's favorable, people like that. Maybe I'll continue doing that. But things like that, I'm thinking of trying to come out with some merch. I just don't want to do not to say it's just regular. Like I don't want to just have T-shirts. I want things that are specific to what I do. You know, that brands things towards me. So brainstorming with ideas for that, but just just creating. Actually, I got into podcasting also through, not just it's CDOC. I have a podcast called People's Distinctive Travels that I do and talk to hip hop artists. So it's so many things that just came out of doing these videos that I would have never imagined.
Okay. Yeah. Because I kept thinking, especially as we were talking, I always kind of thought just from watching your videos and seeing what you do, I'm like, man, he's got so much love for the culture. There's no way he hasn't rapped before. Like, I knew it. I didn't want to put you on the spot here, but yeah.
Oh, no. It's actually, I used to ride with a female named Princess Superstar out of New York. And when I got with her, she had a big hit called Bad Babysitter in the UK. So I was on planes, I was on doing festivals, buses, free clothes, TV shows. So I got to see the life, and then afterwards I'm like, all right, I'm cool on that. But it was fun. It was fun when it was happening.
Okay, that's so dope. Okay, now for your podcast with the name, I'm a Tribe fan. Sincerely, what made you choose that?
We were thinking, so shout out to my partner, Overlord the Fresh. He's my partner in doing that. We're both Tribe fans, and we were just trying to think of a distinctive name. Well, People's Distinctive Travels, a name for us. And we were brainstorming because we were thinking of all these hip hop references, and it was like People's, not instinctive, distinctive travels. And then we talk with artists, and they give us their kind of history. I think the latest episode has Divine Styler, and we got a lot of good feedback from that because people hadn't heard Divine in that kind of way. And he doesn't give a lot of interviews. He's kind of he's not hiding, but he's behind the scenes doing things. So, and then with us, we like to be we're knowledgeable about who we interview and talk to. So we both were huge Divine Styler fans. So we're asking him this very intricate things, and he's appreciative of it. Like, oh, you guys are really, really fans, and he appreciated that. But yeah, that's where we got it from. Tribe, People's Distinctive, to switch it up, Distinctive Travels.
Yeah, that's so dope. Okay, so where can people check out your podcast?
It's streaming on all platforms, Spotify, Apple, wherever you would listen to podcasts, your favorite platform, it's there. Okay,
dope. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come out and talk. You shared so much wisdom and information. I'm excited for the listeners to hear this conversation because, yeah, totally dope. So, yeah, before we, kind of wrap things up, I just, want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up and sharing. And, yeah, is there anything that you kind of want to leave the people with, where they can follow you? Any platform you want to shout out, and especially to keep up with music tip. Yeah, I'm excited for that. So, yeah.
Yes, on Instagram, just Ultramag7 at Ultramag7, ULTRAMAG 7. Every Tuesday, check us out on It's CDOC again. We'll be, talking hopefully to your favorite artists. And also, just want to add, every Sunday, we play the music of the artists that we're going to have on Tuesday. So my homeboy DJ Soulbuck, he does the mix. So that's called It's CDOC again, the mixtape. So that's on Sundays at 8 p.m. Again, the podcast is People's Distinctive Travels. You can find that on any streaming platform. And it's probably a million other things I do. We'll be here next week.
Well, I hope this is just the first of many, and I get to have you back on the show again. So that way, if you think, man, I should have said this, you can always come back on and say it.
I thank you and appreciate your platform and love everything you're doing. I've been following you, so keep it up. I love the elevation of what you're doing.
Thank you so much. All right. Yeah. Until next time. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.
Alright, and that's a wrap for this episode of Instrumental Intel. I've been your host, music producer Chick with Beats, and I want to thank you for tuning in. Once again, as always, I appreciate the guests for coming on and sharing their insights, and I'd like to thank my home station, Grander Radio, out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. Make sure you come back next week. I got more goodness lined up for you, so till next time, you know where to find me. Tune in, tell a friend, and I'll see you then. Peace.